Okay, we're still ticking up a little bit, but we'll get started. Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name's Marisa Gregg. I'm our Vice President for Communications and Marketing at Holy Cross. And welcome to our webinar tonight. We know that you have a lot of questions, and we will answer the most prevalent ones that have come in prior to the webinar. And we'll also take some live questions tonight. We know from experience that we're not going to get to all of your questions, so please be patient as we get you answers in the coming days. This is all new information to us too, and we're quickly working through all of the details to be able to get you answers. We'll capture any questions that you submit tonight, and we'll continue to update the FAQ on our website. And we'll also continue to provide weekly updates throughout the coming weeks with more information. If you don't see the answer to your question in either of these places, then please email coronavirus@holycross.edu and we will respond as soon as possible. With that, I will turn it over to Father Boroughs.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I know that for many of you and for me, yesterday's announcement that the college is going predominantly online has been very difficult and painful. The start of a new academic year is always a season of excitement and joy and expectation, with move-in, the Mass of the Holy Spirit, gatherings of old and new friends, classes starting, football games, and meetings with advisors and class deans. Mount St. James comes alive, looking its best, as our staff have worked so hard to make it so, and eagerly await the opportunity to meet and care for new and returning students. As I imagine each aspect of the startup of this new year, I experience with increased depth the losses that we are all feeling. For many months now, the world around us has been suffering from a pandemic that shows no signs of letting up, and it is spreading across our own country in new waves of contagion. While we wait first for the development and then the availability of a vaccine, many have faithfully donned masks, observed social distancing, and limited outside engagement. Where implemented, the rate of the spread dramatically drops. Sadly, others have grown understandably impatient with the restrictions and then tragically ignored safety precautions. There, the virus either resurges or continues to spread. Unfortunately, schools reopening and sports teams seasons beginning and bars and restaurants doing business and large social gatherings have demonstrated that the virus is very active and dangerous. How schools, colleges, and universities are responding to the pandemic varies greatly, as our differences are great. Each one has unique resources, but also unique needs. Some have medical schools and large research centers in their busy urban centers, while others are liberal arts colleges in more remote locations. Some are highly residential, where others are primarily commuter students. Some have large graduate populations, while others are solely undergraduates. Consequently, responses to the challenges of this moment are unique to each campus and rarely comparable. In just the last few weeks, it has become clear to us on our campus that promised testing and monitoring processes may be delayed due to the rapidly increased volume as across our state and regions, colleges and universities reopen. We have received some concerns that the Broad isn't going to be ready for all this, but currently they are not expecting delays. But there are many other avenues that have to process these tests where delays are possible. We know that local resources to coordinate and manage contact tracing are limited, and that new recommended restrictions on inside dining and managing the spread of the virus among food service staff will severely limit our ability to feed our campus community. Our governor recently intensified the state's requirements regarding quarantining, and he has now restricted the size of inside and outside gatherings to a smaller number than past experience. Further, we don't have significant backup staff for those who provide essential services like our Office of Student Life or Public Safety and Health Services, should they contract the virus. If our full complement of students were to move onto campus, resources to manage an outbreak and provide hundreds of beds for isolation and quarantine space for those who are exposed could quickly close us down. I also understand that this late decision has made it all the more frustrating for you because the movement of the pandemic has been erratic and unpredictable. All institutions are constantly scrambling to find new responses to rapidly changing situations. Our COVID-19 working groups were moving full steam ahead on reopening, while they were also watching complex realities quickly change and keeping an eye on everything that was happening. And now, because of the decisions made at our board meeting, they have had to shift their focus and planning again. They are scaling up alternate plans that they had in reserve to create a robust and meaningful experience for our students who will now be studying remotely. They are supplementing the opportunities for experiential learning, internships, speakers, dialogues on important topics, civic engagement, and spiritual growth, which even more opportunities for social interactions, recreation, and small group communities. And they are as exhausted by all this as you are. But I can assure you that while the experience will certainly be different, because of their hard work, students will be busy and engaged, supported and mentored, and be part of this community. Currently, we have no opportunities for much indoor dining and severely restricted spaces for limited social gathering. The necessity of now increased social distancing in athletic and exercise facilities, even with tents and a reimagined classroom and social spaces, is going to mean that life on campus would be severely and increasingly limited for our students were they to return. Now, I know that the decision to move to remote fall is incredibly disappointing, and I understand and appreciate that some of you disagree with it. I hope, though, that there is some comfort in knowing that our main priorities in making this decision were the health and safety of our students, and also that of our faculty, staff, and local community. Only when it became clear through a confluence of factors that we could not move forward with bringing 2,000 students to campus and meet our responsibilities to them, that we entertained the difficult decision to change our course. This dramatic change raises many emotions and many questions for you. And we've tried to anticipate your biggest questions and answer them via the frequently asked questions, or FAQ, on our website. And as Marisa already indicated, we will also answer some questions live tonight, although we know from past experience we're not going to get through them all. I ask once again for your patience. We are quickly working through the many implications of this decision, and we will continue to keep you informed of updates. I'm going to also ask that you frame your questions and concerns in a respectful manner. I know that it can be difficult when faced with emotion, but please remember that my colleagues have spent day and night this summer, forgoing time with their own families, focused on your health and safety, and creating a meaningful remote academic and student life experience for you this summer in the face of the pandemic. They will do their best to answer your many questions to get you answers quickly to the ones that they are unable to answer tonight. It is clear that our lives have been filled with mounting losses as the months have moved on. As we said at the beginning of this pandemic, uncertainty is our new given, not just for higher education, but also for all aspects of our lives. In this community that values tradition as much as ours, it can be very painful and disconcerting to have the key milestones of our next year canceled or modified. Here and across our world, everyone has had to change their routines and expected ways of living and working. And frankly, the global suffering that we see every day on the news and internet should help us to put our experiences into a larger perspective. I hope too that in the midst of all this disruption, there are some moments of joy and surprise. Hopefully, we are becoming more reflective and grateful for what we do have. On Saturday's Zoom call with our Board of Trustees, I heard our newest graduate on the board talk about her experience as a graduating senior. While she missed so much, she was amazed at how friendships had grown remarkably more significant and deeper because of shared hardships. And I recently heard a colleague who is the mother of 2 Holy Cross students describe incredibly meaningful dinner conversations that aren't possible during the year when her son and daughter are living on campus. And the other night at dinner in our Jesuit community, I listened to my brothers talk with excitement about the online classes they had been taking in order to teach more effectively and creatively this semester. I have no doubt that we will get through this together. You may be at home, but you will still meet new friends and develop bonds that will be with you for years to come online. Your courses may be conducted via Zoom, but you will continue to engage in dialogue about the meaning and purpose of life in the days of pandemic, financial instability, racial injustice, and a national election. You will still relish great literature, new historical perspectives, scientific discovery, and sociological insights. You will still be pushed to achieve more than you thought possible and explore new creative approaches to your field of study with the advice and the support of your faculty, staff, and friends. And as I've said before, and finally, your character will be shaped forever by this moment in time when adversity invites all of us to become more thoughtful, more inventive, more socially engaged, and more grateful, not only for what we've been given, but grateful for the opportunity to discover how we are called to share what we have been given for the survival and the flourishing of our struggling world. Before I now hand it back to Marisa to facilitate questions and answers, I want to address two of the main questions that we have received since Monday. First, you have asked us why we are allowing certain students to return to campus and how we decided on these exceptions. Well, in addition to the health and safety of our community members, it is also a priority and our responsibility to ensure that all of our students are able to progress academically this fall. For some students, academic success depends on their access to campus resources and facilities. Holy Cross students come from a variety of socioeconomic and family realities. Some of our students may not be able to reliably access the internet or have any personal space to study or other resources at home to be able to participate in learning remotely. They may have other personal situations or home life challenges that make it necessary to be on campus in order to continue to progress in their studies. Other students require access to facilities such as studios or labs in order to meet specific academic requirements this semester, without which their graduation could be delayed. Some of our international students have not been able to return home this summer, and they remained here on campus with us in the United States. And finally, we are allowing members of a few winter athletic teams to access training facilities as their safety depends on their access to proper training in advance of their potential season. Second, you have asked why the college will not be reducing tuition, given that the academic and student experience will now be remote. I fully understand the issues and the significant investment all of our families make to send their daughters and sons to Holy Cross. That said, let me explain why we will not be making any additional changes to tuition beyond the elimination of the planned annual increase this year at 3.25% and the elimination of student activity fees and the adjustment in financial aid packaging that eliminated the $2,400 expected student contribution from summer work, as summer jobs have been almost impossible to find this year. I want to acknowledge that the experience students will have remotely will be different. There is no question that it will not be the same as being on campus in person. However, it will be no less valuable. Courses will still be Holy Cross courses, developed and taught by our faculty. These dedicated faculty members are committed to teaching, to being accessible to students, and to providing students with personalized attention, advising, and support. They have designed their courses to ensure that students will make connections with the faculty, with the material, and with each other, and our classes remain relatively small. Many of our faculty have taken seminars this summer to find creative ways to use new technologies in the classroom. At the same time, you pay tuition to Holy Cross not only for an academic experience. This fall, our students will continue to have co-curricular opportunities, including internships, research, civic engagement, and other methods of experiential learning. Online social activities, small group communities, and opportunities for spiritual development and physical wellness are being developed. There will be extensive opportunities for students' growth and development of mind, body, and spirit, as well as opportunities for meeting and building lasting relationships with peers. This is the kind of experience students have at Holy Cross. Whether online or in person, it will be meaningful and will shape them and prepare them for a life of success and purpose. Let me now turn it back to Marisa.
Thank you. We have a bunch of questions coming in. So we'll start with, I want to start with Dean Murray. We have some questions about the timing of our decision. I know Father Boroughs just spoke to this a little bit, but can you talk a little bit about the sequence of events and the timing of the decision, which was just after, unfortunately, just after housing assignments went out?
Sure. So folks, I think you know that since June, our goal and our sincere hope has really been to have as many students on campus who wanted to be here. And we have been working overtime to reach that goal, as you just heard Father Boroughs detail. Unfortunately, late last week, a series of variables emerged from the broad testing that you heard Father Boroughs talk about, and also some information from our local public health that clearly indicated we could not safely host a large population of students on campus. The timing of this new information could not have been worse, given that students had just completed housing selection and first years received news of their roommate and housing assignment. Some of you have asked why we wouldn't then host a cohort of students such as seniors or first years on campus. And a cohort would still be too big for us to house one student per room. And so instead we made the very difficult decision late last week to move to remote learning and allow only a small group of exceptions for students who require to be on campus. So I know that the timing of it made it really difficult. And so one of the things that we are committed to is utilizing the housing assignments, right, to engage students in their residential communities, even though folks will be remote. So I hope that is of some solace, and I really am sorry for the timing of it all.
Thank you. Can you also, while I have you, speak a little bit more about the plan for the spring semester? How and when will we decide, and also the January term?
Sure. So I think I can speak for everyone when I say that we very much want students to be back on campus. And right now our plan is to go forward with the January term and spring semester as currently listed in the academic calendar. We will, of course, continue to monitor health and safety conditions, and we will open in January and then for the spring semester, assuming it is safe to do so.
Thank you. Speaking of the spring semester, will the rooms that were assigned be the rooms for the spring? So will those room assignments hold if we're back in the spring?
Yeah, I know that that's a really good, that's a lot of students have that question. So as you know, students, we were planning to redo housing assignments for spring semester. And if you remember that was to accommodate potential changes from students who may be able to study abroad in the spring, and then for students who originally planned to return to campus next semester. Knowing that, we are still looking at the possibility for some students, particularly seniors and first year students, to retain their fall housing assignments for spring. And we also know that some students need flexibility as roommate groupings may need to change.
Thank you. We have a bunch of questions about off-campus students and whether those students will have access to campus.
Sure. So our immediate priority is to house those students who meet the exceptions to live on campus. We have not yet made decisions regarding access to campus facilities for students who are living locally. I expect to have decisions about criteria for access to campus in the coming days. In the meantime, there is a form for students to fill out if they so choose, if they are requesting access to campus, and they can provide the rationale as to why they believe they need access to campus. And then we can take all of that into consideration, but I would look to communicate with students early next week about all of this. Great.
Can we, just going back to spring semester and the remoteness, can we speak a little bit to why we wouldn't just delay for a month? Why go remote for the whole semester?
Sure, that's a really good question. I think as we've talked about previously, we have been working with an epidemiologist and with infectious disease specialists, and our team of experts has helped guide our decision making around this. And at the moment, there's no indication that that we would be in a better position to delay fall semester, and so we ripped the Band-Aid off, essentially.
Thank you. We have a bunch of academic questions, but before that, I do want to turn to Dottie Hauver, our Vice President for Administration and Finance, and answer a few questions about room and board refunds and new bills. So Dottie, could you talk a little bit about will we be refunding room and board if people already paid? When will they receive revised bills? And how would they get a refund?
Thanks, Marisa. So August 19th is the date that we expect the new bills will be done. The financial aid has to be recalculated for the new cost of attendance given the remote semester. There is a refund request form that's on the bursars page of the Holy Cross website. Once we receive that request form, we'll quickly process the refunds. If there is direct deposit, if you have direct deposit information set up in the TouchNet system, and many, if not most families do have that set up, a credit will be issued directly to that account. If not, we will be issuing refund checks. But again, refunds will be processed very quickly for those room and board charges.
Thank you, Dottie. Okay, we have some questions about classes specifically. So will we be changing the academic calendar to go back to the original plan with a fall break? And will the course schedule actually change? Provost Freije.
Thank you, Marisa. As you may know, the academic calendar and the schedule of classes were set by the faculty last spring. And at the time that we set them, we realized that we didn't know exactly what the fall semester was going to look like. And we tried to set up a calendar and a schedule that would accommodate all possibilities. So right now we're going to stick with the schedule and the calendar that we have for the fall semester. We will be meeting in September to determine what the spring calendar will look like. And so we'll have an updated information about the spring calendar then.
Great. And the course schedules, so will the times of their classes be the same?
Yep, the class schedule is going to stay the same, and so the times of the classes will be the same. I know that a number of you may be running into time zone challenges with the classes that you signed up for. And so the registrar's office has already begun to look at that to see if there are students, for example, in 8 a.m. classes that are in the Western time zone, and has already begun to reach out to students to see if there are ways in which we can help them with their schedule. Students will also have an opportunity to make some changes to their schedule beginning August 24th when we do start the open enrollment period. So we'll work with you on if there are time zone challenges with your schedule.
Thank you. There are some questions about class sizes. So now that we're online, can we expand class sizes to accommodate students who couldn't get into the classes before?
We have added some additional sections of classes to try to accommodate some students who couldn't get into classes before. But I actually think that it's really important that our class sizes are small at Holy Cross, and it may be more important when you're online that the class sizes are smaller at Holy Cross. One of the things that we want to make sure that we're doing in our online classes is having synchronous sessions. So having sessions where you are all together at the same time so that you can be engaging with your classmates as well as with your faculty members. So where we don't want to have classes where you're just all coming in and viewing a tape. We want classes where you'll be involved in discussion, and that requires keeping them at a reasonable size.
Thank you. Will the remote classes be live or will they be taped? It's a question.
So the faculty members who are creating these classes are creating in every single class opportunities for students to be together in a virtual space and engaging with each other. So that it is not going to be the case that the materials will be all taped materials that you will view on your own. Every class will have opportunities for students to be together, to be asking questions directly of the faculty member, and to be in discussion with one another to make sure that you are not just engaging with the faculty member or not just engaging with the material, but that you are engaging with each other. Forming the intellectual community in the class is one of the things that the faculty have been really working hard on as they've been doing their professional development work this summer to develop new online courses.
Thank you. We have a number of concerns from science majors and pre-med students. So they're asking, how will labs work remotely? And should students who have labs as part of their courses or pre-med students apply to live on campus?
So most of the labs had already been structured to be remote labs. There were a few labs that faculty members were going to try to do in person. Actually, doing in-person labs is pretty challenging in this pandemic era as well. You can't share materials, as many of you who have been in labs know that you often work closely with a lab partner, and that's not going to be possible in the world of physical distancing and masks. So many of the labs had already been scheduled to be online. The ones that were hybrid are going to be moved to be online. The only students, science students, that I would urge to think about whether you want to come back to campus are science students who are doing independent research in faculty labs. If you're a senior and part of your academic program is to complete research this semester, then please do think about applying to be on campus, and we'll try to figure out how to make sure that you can continue that research project.
Thank you. We do, before I let you go, have some questions about grading, and will fall courses be pass-fail, or how will grading be handled this semester?
So a couple of things. One of the things that faculty have been doing as they're developing their new online courses is developing new assessments and new ways of thinking about how to value the learning that students are doing in their classes. So I expect that you will see different kinds of assessments in your classes than you may have seen in your in-person classes last fall. But the classes will be graded classes. Last semester, we did make a decision to allow students to switch up to 2 courses to pass, no pass. And that was in recognition of the fact that we started the semester one way and then were completely disrupted and ended the semester in a completely different way. One of the things that we're really hopeful for this semester is that we will not have major disruptions in the semester. It was indeed one of the things that we were thinking about as we were trying to sort out what our strategy would be or how we would approach this fall semester. And so we will revert to the old old pass no pass policy, and students who are taking overload classes can take them as pass no pass.
Thank you. I have a couple questions back to Dottie for clarification about when bills are due. Our original bill was due on August 17th, so should people just pay it, or are we extending the deadline? Can you speak to that for a second?
Yes, we are extending the deadline to August 28th. And I think if students have bills where they have just tuition on the bill, that's you can certainly go ahead and pay the tuition. The bills that will be adjusted include students who have financial aid on their bills. And I saw a couple questions come in about the refunds and whether you can request a refund or maintain a credit on the account. You certainly can maintain a credit on the account for the spring semester if you've already paid. And Marisa, you didn't ask this, but we've got a number of questions about payments from 529 plans, because those payments do have some consequences. So there are 60 days in terms of a refund to a 529 plan, where there's a timeline between having any kind of penalty in returning funds to the 529. So we expect revised bills to be out on the 19th. Revised due date is the 28th. If you're paying tuition, that can be paid now. Credits for room and board will be processed if you want a credit refunded. Again, there's a refund request form. If you fill that out, the bursar's office processes those very quickly. If you have an account in TouchNet, it will be credited to that account directly. And if you want to maintain a credit for the spring semester, that's also appropriate.
Thank you. I'm going to go back to Michele for a minute, Dean Murray. There are some questions about how will we support students with academic accommodations. So now that we're remote, will those students still receive extra time? What kind of support will we have for them? And can students with disabilities that require special accommodations apply to live on campus?
Sure. Yes, so academic accommodations still apply to the remote learning environment. And if students have questions about their accommodation needs for remote learning, please do contact Accessibility Services. They are ready to help you. And then with regard to students who have special accommodations and applying for an exception to live on campus, please do apply for the exception to live on campus this fall. We will certainly be taking all of that into consideration.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can you talk a little bit more, Dean Murray, about our health and safety protocols on campus for students who will be approved to live on campus? So will those be the same as our original plan? Will students still be tested?
Yes, thank you for that. So yes, anyone with access to campus this fall, including faculty and staff, will need to comply with our COVID-19 protocols. So this includes testing, symptom tracking, physical distancing, the face covering, contact tracing, isolation, and quarantine. All of those protocols are still in play because the virus is still with us.
Great, thank you. Could I ask you to go back to a little bit more about the spring semester and how actually I want to send this to Provost Freije. Could you talk about just the academic experience and why, from an academic standpoint, we might not have wanted to bring students back a month late, but instead decided to go remote for the full semester?
Sure, that's a really important question. I think that one of the challenges that we've seen, even as we created the academic calendar for this year, was that that having students, as you know, we shrunk the semester so that students would be leaving at Thanksgiving and not returning. I think that one of the things that we want to try to do is ensure the integrity of our courses by trying to ensure that there's not a major disruption in the middle of the semester. If you remember last spring when we had to send you home in the middle of the semester, we lost a week in order to do that, because we had to give you time to go home and us time to pivot. And so I think that part of what we want to try to do is maintain your experience as much as we can. And one of our concerns was that we would be in a position where we would get you here and then several weeks later have to send you home. And that seemed to be quite disruptive to your academic experience, as well as to your student experience as you're thinking about your first semester.
Thank you. We have a couple of specific questions. Can you speak to the status of the DC program?
Sure. So the DC students were notified that we were encouraging them to get remote internships for this semester, and we are still encouraging them to do that. A number of the DC students have already gotten their remote internships. Some students will be moving to DC. They are getting their own housing. The college is not supplying housing this year for the DC students, but there are a number of students who are, and I think the last I heard that most of the students had internships lined up for DC. So DC will still be happening this fall. Albeit in a different way, like most other things.
Can you talk about the January virtual term a little bit more?
Sure. I think maybe what I'll talk about is the larger question of the academic year and how students are going to complete their academic program. I know that a number of students are concerned about taking 4 online courses. We heard that from you in surveys from the spring, and we're aware that that's a concern for some students. And we want to try to make sure that we try to provide some flexibility for you as you complete your 8-course program this over the course of this year. So a couple of things I will say. First of all, to be a full-time student, you need to take at least 3 courses. And there are good reasons why you want to be a full-time student. If you're not a full-time student, it affects your financial aid, and also loans begin to the loan deferral period can end if you're not a full-time student. So my very, very strong recommendation to you is that you take at least 3 courses. But if you believe you can't take 4 courses for whatever reason, given everything that's going on for you, the January term will have a limited number of opportunities available for students, and we'll be publishing what those opportunities are early in September, what the courses are. But I want to be cautious here. There will be a limited number of opportunities in January term. Our plan is to offer a wider array of courses also in a summer term that will start right after the end of the spring term. And students who take 3 courses this fall will be permitted to try to enroll in a January course or a summer course without any additional tuition charges. A number of those courses are still going to be online courses as they were last summer, but if you are enrolled in an in-person January or summer term course, we will charge you some room and board for that, but you will not have to pay tuition for those courses. Our goal is to make sure that students have the opportunity to complete 8 courses this academic year to keep them on track for academic progress.
Great, thank you. Could you also speak to deferrals and leaves of absence?
Yes, so a couple of things about that. A deferral is only for students in the incoming class. So students in the class of 2024 can apply for a deferral. The deferral application process is a letter to the Director of Admissions, Ann McDermott. So you need to send a letter to the Director of Admissions, and she will send you the form to request a deferral. When you're deferring your admission, you are basically saying to us, I don't want to attend Holy Cross this fall. I would I would like to attend Holy Cross next fall. So we're making a commitment that you are already admitted to the class of 2025 on the condition that you not apply for admission to another institution. So if you're interested in a deferral, please contact Ann McDermott and she'll send you the deferral form. A leave of absence is for returning students. So students who are interested in a leave of absence for the semester or the year can contact their class dean about that, for that information. The one thing I want to caution you about is, again, when you're on a leave of absence, it's our expectation that you're not taking courses full-time someplace else. You can take courses with the approval of your class dean that might fulfill common requirements or other graduation requirements or deficiencies. Make sure you get those courses pre-approved. I don't want you to take a course that then won't transfer into your record. So make sure that you get those courses pre-approved if you want to take courses while you're away on leave. But if you take a leave of absence, your expected graduation will be moved by the number of semesters that you take a leave. So if you take a 1 semester leave, your expected graduation will move 1 semester. If you take a full year leave, your expected graduation will move a year.
Thank you. A couple other questions. If a student starts online and after a few weeks feels challenged and unable to continue, what options are available for that student?
Well, I think a couple of things. The first thing I would say is that I hope that that student will reach out to their faculty advisor and their class dean, because we want to be able to provide the resources to support you in your coursework. And so we will still have tutors available. We'll still have academic services and the writers workshop available. And we will work with you to figure out what kinds of support you might need. Some students may actually need support in terms of technology support. And if that's the case, there is a form right now that you can apply to get technology support. So if you need internet access, if your computer isn't available to you, let us know and we'll try to support you immediately on that. But something may happen during the semester as well. And so please contact your class dean and let us know what's happening and what's going on, and we'll reach out to support you. Now, if it turns out that you need to drop a class, then we'll help you with that process as well. And as I said, if you can only complete 3 classes this fall, we'll allow you to enroll in a summer session course with no extra tuition charge. So we're gonna work with you to get you through 8 courses this year.
Thank you. And one more question before I turn back to Dean Murray. Do we have any idea about study abroad for the spring?
I think maybe I'll answer the question about study abroad for the spring instead of Dean Murray. We don't know about study abroad for the spring. You might have seen that the CDC has started changing its guidelines about international travel, and we pay attention to those guidelines. And so as other countries become safe, we are going to want to try to reset up our study abroad programs. You also probably have seen that some of the countries in Europe are struggling. So Spain is having a bit of a resurgence. Italy is having a bit of a resurgence. So in addition to paying attention to what's going on in the virus here, we're really trying to pay attention to what's going on in other areas as well, across the world. And so the Study Abroad Office is monitoring all of that. We would like to be able to open up our study abroad programs this spring. There's no doubt about it. And we will continue to monitor both the CDC guidance and the guidance we're getting from our institutions abroad.
Great. Dean Murray, back to you. A few questions about what happens if conditions improve. So if restrictions are loosened a bit in the state, would we consider hosting a few on-campus events for students, or are we willing to kind of open things up a bit?
Thank you for that question. Well, my goodness, I sincerely hope conditions improve and that they change. I think that's what we all want. Ultimately, everybody wants us all to be back on campus together. I can't predict right now what that might look like. We will continue to monitor conditions. We will continue to align our practices and our protocols with what makes sense, given the directives from the state and our local officials. So it would be disingenuous of me to promise something that is unknowable at this time. What I can say is that we will continue to monitor conditions, and if it's warranted, we will certainly be glad to make changes, because ultimately, you know, we all want us to go back to the experience we know and love.
Thank you. I think we have time for a couple more questions. So we're getting a bunch of questions from first years about registration, the timing, and also about Montserrat and what that experience might be like for first years. Provost Freije.
Sure. So first year students have now received their Montserrat placements, and they've been placed in one other course of the courses that they listed as priority courses for them. So you should have gotten that information already. And we will open up STAR for you to enroll in 2 more courses on Thursday as scheduled. So you will be able to go in and add 2 more courses to your schedule as planned on Thursday. In terms of what the Montserrat experience will be like, I have to say that the Montserrat program starts to come together usually in March or April before you arrive. The faculty meet on a weekly basis, talking about what they want to do in their clusters and how they want that to work. As you might imagine, for this whole time, they have been planning, what can we do? How will we make Montserrat work if it's going to be virtual? And so they already have planned a number of events for clusters, for seminars, for groups of seminars, to bring you together in a virtual way around speakers, with exhibits, thinking about watching movies together, so that you can still build the community that's so important in Montserrat. I think that a number of you may have heard from your Montserrat faculty. Usually they try to write to first year students after the assignments are done. They are really looking forward to working with you. The classes will be small. You'll really get to know one another in those classes, and you'll get to know the faculty member in those classes, as well as the students in the other seminars that are in your cluster. So they've been very intentional about making sure that they can still bring groups of students together around common events. So,
Thank you. A quick logistical question. How will students get their books? I'm not sure who the right person is to answer that question, but it's come up a few times. So Dottie, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. I can answer that. So typically we have a relationship with MBS Bookstore, and normally we have all the books ordered in the bookstore. This year we have a contract with MBS whereby they have a Holy Cross specific site on the MBS website, so students can go in and order their books through that Holy Cross specific MBS site. The books can be shipped either to your home, or if you end up being one of the students approved to live on campus, they can be shipped to campus, and they'll be available here when students get to campus.
Thank you. Quick clarifications, Provost Freije. A few people are asking about the option of a free course in the winter or spring if you take 3 classes. Is that an option only if you take 3 classes, or can you do that if you are taking 4 classes?
You can do that as well as if you're taking 4 classes. I will tell you, we are going to prioritize the students who only took 3 classes, right? So they're going to get the first crack at courses because we will have a limited number of courses available. And like I said, our priority is to make sure that students are able to continue their academic program in as strong a fashion as possible. So it's the students who will not complete 4 courses that will have priority.
Thank you. I think Father Boroughs has a few closing remarks for us. So I want to thank you for all your questions. I know there are still some out there that we haven't answered, but I do have them here, and we will work to get you answers and clarifications in the coming days. I also want to remind first years and seniors, I know that you have some specific concerns based on your situations. And so we do have webinars tomorrow specifically for first year students and their families and for seniors and their families. So you can join us on those if you are so inclined. Back to Father Boroughs.
Thank you so much. And thank you for joining us tonight and for all the questions that you've raised and ones we still have yet to determine and to answer. I did notice on some of the Q&A that people have wondered about the science behind our decision making. As someone indicated, I think it was Marisa, or Michelle, excuse me, we did hire and we have as consultants 2 epidemiologists from the University of Massachusetts Medical School. We also have on our board, and someone we've consulted widely with, is a very noted geographic and infectious disease specialist who is a member of our board, who's an alumna and who's been very, very helpful to us. We've hired space consultants and dietitians, and we've talked a lot with city and state officials. So we've been dealing with a lot of questions here. And as you can imagine, there's so much here that's based on risk. And we don't know how the pandemic is going to move. We've been advised that the influenza season and the epidemic are in parallel this year, and that we could have a lot of issues that happen then. Could something not happen? Absolutely. But the chances are most likely that we are going to be facing more of the effects of the virus and of the influenza as the semester moves on. That was part of our decision making as to why we would end the semester on campus at Thanksgiving, so that students would be home, and hopefully we could last that long as we move forward, not knowing when we were going to get hit and not knowing if we would have to send everyone home in the end. So this is a lot of uncertainty. We've all been living with it, and it's hard because we all have strong feelings about what we want and how badly we want our lives to return to what we knew as normal. And it's a very hard, I can tell you that decisions were never made easily here. We've stayed up, I know I did, a few nights just trying to wrestle through all the issues and the risks we're taking or the risks we're not taking, or how to avoid as much risk as we can to protect the safety of one another. We don't have a crystal ball. I don't have a divine insight into what God is asking of us all, except that I know we're trying to do the very best we can. And I know that other schools have recently made decisions, and I know there's other schools locally and that are talking about all these same issues as well. And we're all trying to find our best way forward that really corresponds to the unique realities and limitations that we're all facing. I ask for your prayers. I ask for your support for all of us, and you certainly are in ours. And I hope to engage more of you. We will be having more town halls in the future, and especially as the year gets started, trying to keep everyone informed as to what's going on and to keep you informed about all the kind of resources that we have for you. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your commitment to one another and to the College of the Holy Cross. And we affirm our commitment to you as well. Good night.